Hello, hello, hello. I'm Amorph. I make games, play games. It's nice to see you. Today we're doing more Artfight, although this might be the last one for a little while, if not for the rest of the month, we'll see. As I have some things lined up that make me quite busy. So we will get started on this commission. Oh, not commission, this attack. Hopefully we'll finish it today, but most likely we will not. Still, I have made a sketch on my phone in my free time, so you can hopefully reuse that. Oh, we are going to reuse it, honestly. Do not know why I make it an uncertainty. As usual, the rules are that because of my laptop's performance, we'll likely get some issues. I'm not facing any of them at the moment, which is suspicious, but maybe soon. We'll see. Hmm. So this is Cordelia for Snowbody. So, mm, mm, okay, we'll start with some of the tail. I'm hoping to change the colors later, but I'm not sure if it'll actually succeed. Ah, there it is. Okay, it's starting up with whatever it's doing, actually. Oh, I'm on the wrong brush. Never mind, that makes sense. This one. It doesn't do well with brushes that do blending or opacity. No, okay. I hope Control Z works. Great. I'll quickly make this less visible so they can see more of what I'm drawing, and my brain wanted to take into account the parts that are not my drawing. Very nice. The pink is turning out well, nicely because this is my favorite kind of pink that I use for sketching. It emulates sketching in red pen, you know, because that's also something that artists can use. Hmm. They have, oh dear. Okay, so here's our first thing going on. Other than the general delay whenever I'm drawing, it will randomly draw lines between my start and end point. Well, most of the time it's my start and end point. In reality, it's can be chaotic sometimes. But, but, I need a, there we go, hot pink version of it. I don't know how I feel about these colors because they're, don't have, like, they have very high saturation, and usually you'd want to at least have a little bit of a mix so that you can add higher saturation later at points that you find more important. Still, I think I might use this for now. Now, I will, maybe to add some contrast, I'll use a lower saturation for the shading. And I'll see how that turns out. Okay, it doesn't actually turn out with lower saturation, but I'm thinking we could go for this kind of high saturation art style where the colors are the differences, you know? Hmm. Now, for that, I will also want to shade some of that red. There we go. Some saturation difference is made to make sure the contrast reads properly, but we can still have it look very bright, you know? Actually, I did make it a little bit too dark. There we go. I know you don't see much of a difference, but one's a very saturated red and the other one's gives a bit more of a dark impression. Now back to our basics. There we go. So we don't want to show the fold in the tail of the siren, but and I suppose we should probably also get invested in some scales while we're at it. Just as so. And once more. Actually, not quite certain. I'll see how it goes. The scales might be a good idea, or they might not be. Usually scales are a good idea if they're done with lighting, actually. I'll very carefully control that, and this will take some time for it to actually repeat my actions. But I want to undo the red that we have done, and I want to put in the pink, and then later we can change the lighting, hopefully. Which I do say hopefully on purpose this time, because I do not trust myself to remember it sometimes. Anyway, so as we will do that, we will add it through lighting and not through shading. That's how we'll make it. But first, there we go. Marvelous. There we go. And then carefully colored it. It is blending a little bit with the hot pink at the moment, but it is a-okay. If anything, I like when it's more, I guess, homogeneous. Hmm? And then I'm gonna quickly adjust the way I'm looking at my reference. Ah, there we go. Wonderful. Mm-mm-mm. So more hot pink. I'm coloring in the tail part, and then I can't wait to shade it. But the tail will also have quite a few, I guess, complicated fin things going on with it. It's kind of like that of a particularly fancy tropical fish. I don't remember which ones there are. I know some angelfish have really fancy fins, but not most of them per se, so I don't really want to say angelfish specifically. That'd be inaccurate. Quite a few sea slugs can also have very nice looking ones. Carefully coloring it in. It does occasionally jump. When I say it delays the way I'm drawing, and it does significantly, I don't even know what I'm doing per se. Well, I know it because it's what I see in my mind's eye, but I don't see it on paper, right? Or I suppose on screen here. Anyway, um, hmm. With it, it will sometimes jump from point to point, uh, and yeah, like so. So it doesn't even repeat one for one the actions I take because of that little variation. There we go. It's not too bad. Now to the more complicated parts of this, I suppose. I'll take this blue for now, and I'll go off here like so. Wonderful. This might even turn out really nicely with the bright colors. I didn't consider before they could just have no shading at all, but it is still a valid way to do this, and is still within style that we're currently sort of going for. Well, the one I'm mostly forced to use, it's the one that is within our limitations. I can't sketch with it, doing as it does, so I have to block out the colors instead. And so this is still a very blocked out by color art style. And then we have one more. This one's technically a pale purple, but I want to make my own for this. Okay, there we go. It needs to be highly saturated, and I would like to add a bit more pink to it. RGB is not quite doing it. There we go. SMYK, I suppose. And then back to RGB. I don't know. My original version would make me a lot happier. Pale purple. Huh. Well, I suppose I can always just make it translucent. For those that might have trouble understanding what is going on at the moment, that is perfectly okay. I have drawn the second fin thing attachment, but it will have a very different color underneath that, which will be how would I explain it? The way that things fold, it will have a lighter color on the inside, I suppose. And we are not currently drawing the inside, so it looks a bit more like a squiggle. That is temporary. Although I wouldn't say that the squiggle wouldn't be an artistic choice that we could also take. All those bright colors and bright shapes might be fun. It cut across. I should be a little more careful. Oh, and it's not moving. Okay, it jumped. Or more like teleported because it didn't even draw a line in between. I'll try to control S also because that usually tends to appease it. I think it's because it has to hold less of the canvas in memory. Because there's different memory distributions for it, right? There's one that the app can come with, I suppose, and then there's the memory it saves in the file. Kind of like the difference between a hard drive and a CPU, I guess, or GPU. The processing issues. Because one stores and the other one, it's in a human, it's different in short-term and long-term memory, right? And in our case, the long-term memory is external save points. So it's outside of the app, and short-term is within the application. And once more over here would be very nice to draw it. Hopefully without cutting across. Oh, it did without cutting across. That's wondrous. Okay, now we make it slightly lighter. And I'll also make it slightly more pink as well. There we go. And then color that in. And color it in again. Let me see how that's turning out. It's not too bad. But I would like to check with some of my references. If I could, that would be absolutely amazing. Nope. Where is... Ah, that one. Okay, I see what our problem was. I'll make a new layer and I'll start again with it. And I'll pick a much smaller brush. Okay. Great. And then that would go as follows. But it gets bigger over here. And then once that goes, we can start on the much bigger ones, I think. That should do nicely. And then let me erase anything in between where the line has drawn that I do not want it to draw. I think this is better. That being said, we have to also look at the ways that it's covered by the blue, and therefore a lot of the silhouettes we're currently putting in will not be visible, so we need to make sure that they actually are, or else it will look muddy and not read well. That's a good start of progression. I could even possibly add some more here, but I don't think I will, because I don't think that's a good idea. Alright, with that, actually I'm going to put it on 15 pixels. There we go. I can start to color in this new thing that we have done with it. Actually, I have an even better idea. Control Z. Hopefully it does so well without deleting a bunch of other things. It's funny the way that it works when it's all laggy, where Control Z will Control Z multiple actions as one Control Z action. So if I, for example, erased and drew, it will Control Z both of them. And I will have no choice. And it's not that it's performing several Control Zs at the same time. Well, actually it is at the same time, but like in sequence. Because then the situation would look quite different. And maybe I'll draw a few. No. I'll engage in the shadow of it later. For now, I might even group it so they can put it, above and below. Shift select and then Control G for grouping. Marvelous. Now underneath, we're using that lighter color because I have decided that's what I want to color this fin thing aspect with. Very lovely. I think it's a very creative and interesting character to do because of the many little ruffles you can do with the fins. I really am looking forward to doing any of the shading on them too, or at least trying it out, because it can look so interesting. Okay, and carefully, I've used a smaller brush for the filling out of the details in the smaller areas. Like there's parts of the outline where a thicker brush would have me erasing because, well, it simply doesn't work. I should probably make sure it doesn't overtake the space of the dark blue though. Great. I can always mask it out later, but I think for now it's almost preferable. And then carefully going. Great. I do think that pivot I made earlier is significant, where once you recognize that the thing you have drawn underneath the sketch, while being what you intended or correct, was not what the sketch at the end would need, you adjust it, So that is quite a point. I'm a bit over halfway of coloring it in, and so far there's some mixed ideas with it, but that is simply because it's not underneath the blue fin like we have originally intended. That, and there's also a bit of shading I need to do. I'm not currently doing it, so as such. It's always very fun to draw this way because the editing process makes me want to do animation with it, I suppose. More like rigging, honestly, than anything else. Because everything is already on its separate, I wouldn't say, yeah, I do make them by separate layers because they're all distinct shapes, you know? And that means that I don't have to later separate them into layers, which makes my work quite easy. And then one more layer underneath that of the shadow, which I'm hoping will work out nicely. It can be a bit difficult to understand how the fabric folds, but I think we should try anyway. And once last bit was there. Great. It does look like ruffles now, but I want to put them underneath the blue so that we can have a clear idea of if it works. I think it does, but I will make it translucent. There's a bit more to it than just translucency, though. I'll try maybe with a mask. It doesn't really handle opacity being a questionable thing very well, but I will save it and I will try, you know? Normally Mondays are art books, but I'm thinking of fading them out as art is more focused on what I'm doing. Usually it's in game art specifically, but a lot goes into game art, which includes a lot of things that go into typical art normally. It seems that the tool I have been using is alive and well, and maybe I can use it now. I wonder... Okay, there's some things. It has a little too much on that mask, so I want to edit it and change that particular effect. Hopefully soon, whenever it wakes up. There we go. A bit better, and then a bit better again. Maybe once more even? I suppose that'll have to do. Now onto the new layer, we'll also use a mask, and we'll see how it goes if I try to gently erase a little bit of it. Will the piling actually do us good? I think it does in its own little way. It's a little bit unique, I suppose, but I think it can do well. Okay, I'll take this blue, and I want to make it at least close to our normal. Oh, also, last time I was using this, I have made sure to use colored glitter, and I don't want to have colored glitter on this brush. There we go. Randomized per stroke, I think is the colored glitter? Maybe? Let me see. One, and then one more. Yep, that was colored glitter. Control Z. There we go. It works wonders. Now, this brush is translucent a bit, and therefore it's quite a bit heavy. So I'm simply hoping that will work out. But if it doesn't, we kind of know why. I will control Z because I don't like the in-between colors. And so soon I'll be able to draw just the significant parts of it, and I think that's what it needs the most. As long as it actually listens to me pressing Control Z, which I am counting on. Oh, it also draws over itself. I'm almost inclined to just delete that entire layer, to be honest. Either that or... Okay, one more layer. I have an idea. So I'll hide the current one, and I'll make a new one, which will be our new current. And then we should be able to draw something along these lines and shade it in. And I want to see if that works. I personally think it does. I don't like how diverse the color scheme is, to be honest. But that adds to the overall tropicness of it, I suppose. You know? Almost makes it a bit mesmerizing too, if you think about it. Kind of like those sensor videos, or those ones of, I think, the hippie ones from back in the day. where it's just rotating patterns. Kind of reminds me of those as well. Apparently they can be good for a struggling brain, perhaps, or have a calming effect of some kind. Not sure. Perhaps I shouldn't speak of them at all if I'm not sure, though. So thus I have heard. And then polishing it out. Ah, there we go. Very lovely. I'll do the same with the light pink later, but for now we have this blue to focus on. It might not be perfect, but it's certainly good. Very good. And then I'll be careful with it. Well, you know what? It would be easier to just erase it than it is to control that and redraw that entire thing, I think. Very careful, and then once more careful. Ah, control lead. Perhaps not. Once more, perhaps. Right. You know, I could have pressed Control Z in accident. I do that a lot. Let's try erasing it again. It does seem to also experience a little bit of drag, which normally is concerning, but it's also something we can deal with. And now that we know about it, we can account for it very well. It's likely why I pressed Control Z last time, probably overstepped its boundaries a bit. Very carefully. And then once more. There we go. And just a bit. Maybe even a bit more. Not quite sure. And at the top? Is that it? Not really, but you know what? We can deal with it. We can live with it. I like how the color is almost greenish in comparison to the other ones. It's so unique of it, honestly. Color theory can be quite interesting. It'll do. And I guess once more over here, perhaps? Yeah. And I'll just erase a few parts of it. Ah, there we go. Now, I will reuse some of the purple, but I'll make it maybe a brighter red or purple. And I'll go over here underneath the blue and count that in. But it's darker though instead of lighter, so it works a bit differently, doesn't it? We'll just have to see, I suppose. I might even have a few different versions, which will include the light and the dark. I'll turn it off for now. I'll mark it yellow so I remember to come back to it if I feel like it. And I'll make a lighter version of it. Oh, but that's too light. I wonder if I can just use the base version, that'll work. No, it won't. Oh. Okay, Control Z. It almost looks like we are using cool lighting because we're using warmer tones for... okay, not quite it. Maybe I should go more pink instead? I don't know. It's so... it is, okay. I'll still control that because I didn't place it in the correct position, but this is the correct color. Now I just need to use it properly. Well, whenever it catches up, it can also color it in, and that would be lovely. You know, I think when I first got the tablet, I had removed the protective film it had on it, of course, but I'm now considering perhaps I shouldn't. It has a lot of, I wouldn't say scratches on it, but you can really see where I was drawing. I think I have a strong hand with art in general. At least that's what my drawing tablet screen is telling me. It's not necessarily damaged or anything, and it works quite fine. But I'm now considering maybe a different action should have been taken as a choice. And then once more over here. No, that's not it. I don't want to control that because I'm scared of it, so we will instead use the eraser color and delete it the manual way. The reason I don't just use the eraser is because it flips out at using an eraser. So instead we have this. It's kind of like a lighting highlight that I'm doing with these things. So it works differently from a shadow. And remembering that can be very helpful to making sure it actually looks nice. And once more over here. Just a little bit. There we go. Like so. And then once more. To delete a little bit of it. Just like so. And then I don't know, I think this is it. Just a little bit. It'll do for our sessions. Right. I will also probably use this color for the background version of that same pink thing. I don't know what to call it, a fin? I've been calling it a fin, but I'm not even sure that qualifies as a name for it. Not really, anyway. And I shall use that same light purple pinkish color for the middle. So that it doesn't look very sudden. Right, okay, that in itself is not bad, and I think it guides the viewer where we want them to be. There is also a tail on this siren, and I might, yes, I do want to actually do something about it. Although, the closer I'm looking at the tail, the more fins it has, which is just presently a bit confusing. I might add one more, like, fin tail thing to it. Let me add one more layer. I shall turn it orange, because it'll be a custom thing. Okay, and now we do those kind of like very small, what are they called? Ruffles. There we go. And then maybe a few more. And I might erase a little bit of it so that it more naturally moves into the pink. Yeah, I think I'm happy with it. Next step would be actually adding lighting to the tail, which is it's okay. I don't know, it worries me a bit. I'm very carefully trying to draw in this kind of silhouette of scales within this drawing. I think it's working out, but I still want to, just be careful with it, just in case. Ah, lovely. And once more, and once more. Not too bad. And a little bit more. I would say it's a little too thick, but it really isn't, so now I'll add a little bit more of it because I think it showed me what else I could be using. I will delete some though because I don't want it encroaching on the territory of the ruffles. Not too bad. I might even add some backlight. Yeah, never too bad for backlight. Like so. Wonderful. I really want to add shading to it, but I know I can't. Maybe if I delete some of the backlight, it'll make more sense. And maybe if I add some to go into that direction. Yeah, that's not bad. Very good. Now, there's a couple more things I can do. Specifically, I want to move on to drawing some of the body now, actually. I could spend more time on the fin tail, but I really don't want to. So, the body it is. The body itself is, I suppose, more of a ghastly white. So I'll try to emulate that a little bit, while still keeping to our color scheme. We're not keeping to our perspective, though. So I suppose I could delete some of it, perhaps? My apologies for any picked up sounds, as my mic tends to be very sensitive. Still, nonetheless, we persevere. Maybe like so? I think I might have taken away too much. Where is that pink? No, that's wrong. There we go. 40 is a bit too large. I might take a 17. I think I took away a little bit too much from the tail, so I want to add at least some bit. Much nicer. Now, underneath that was this whiter color. And then perhaps like so. I suppose it's a bit hard. Well, let's do as follows. Technically, we also need to draw the hand, but I think there might be more pressing issues. Although the hands are important. Now, the accessories are the same color as the tail, so that's what we're going to be doing. There we go. And then once more. Does it count as an accessory? I don't know. Sometimes people draw mermaids as having like them be part of their bodies, I suppose, and that's why they're the same color as the tail. Sometimes do fashion choice entirely. Like I think there was maybe Barbie Mermaidia or something, where they could like put on and swap out different tails. I thought that was really cool. Some people thought it was silly. No, a little. I need to change to a smaller brush. This isn't working. There we go. Much improved. There's also some very nice like blue elements, and I'll try to implement those. My favorite is, of course, the... Okay, that blue is not the correct one, so Control Z. That's really throwing me off at the moment. But there is also some ruffles hanging off, which I think are really cool, because they go with the whole like ruffle on the tail, you know? I'm not sure if I'll do a good job on them, but I really hope to, you know? Okay, since they're all the same layer, I can't actually use any of the delete colored parts. They can try to make this a little bit more polished. But that's the wrong color. Still, it does show quite a good idea of what we could do with ruffles, which is adding more of a different color so you can see the way that it folds. Like so. And a bit more of that dark blue. I'll add it over here to where I think it gets the least amount of attention. And then for the like teardrop shape, there we go. I think that's nice. I've added the lighter blue in the center of it, like so. Now there are also some pearl moments around the design. I think, anyway. Their interpretation's a bit out there, so I'll attempt with it. And I'll draw them in this sort of direction of cascading down because that is the action of the torso. And so I'll carefully draw them around. Hopefully they will end up looking quite nice. I think that needs to go over some parts, but because it's... Oh no, I've made it part of the... Okay, so I'll have to draw it on top of everything else we have drawn so far. Because I have accidentally drawn it on the skin layer. The entire everything. Now there is this. And then once more. They should work, but they're having a bit trouble. I know that there's a difference in their size as they go down in the middle one. So I'll try to make that difference the one that pops out at you, you know? And I do think it did work. Marvelous. Maybe I'll add a couple more in the back. And then I think the design over here as well, which is very cool. Right. And then once more to the second one. It's not quite turning out the way they wanted it to. I'll press Ctrl Z and have it erase at least for some of it. Or actually, it repeating this action twice might be useful. I'll let it do whatever it is trying to do. Only downside recently is that, oh dear, is that my current camera is at 72 dpi for some reason. But normally when I draw, it's at about 300 because I like to see the details without having to actually, increase it, and have the output quality not become lower for very little reason. Still, well, I suppose that's the choice that's been made first, with the ways that these are drawn. I don't know if I can even do anything against it. It's all not right though. I'll just delete later and restart. So I'll have to wait a little bit for it to actually respond to me, but nonetheless. And then I'll make a new one as well. Now, very carefully, I actually follow one for one, and hopefully it'll do a proper job. It won't. Okay, great. I'll carefully press Ctrl Z, and that will be lovely. And then we will draw it slowly so that I can actually see where it repeats. Hopefully. It's drawing them too low, and that's my problem. So I will account for that by drawing a bit above the line I want them to be drawn on. Yeah, okay, so that's not what I asked. It repeated like 4 times too. I might just have to forego that aspect. Alright, back to drawing skin. Where's it? Ah, over here. Lovely. Our skin is pinkish, which might mean it looks not as ghastly as I thought it might. But I'm not sure. I think we could possibly change that later. Oh no, I'm stupid. Not really. But I have accidentally drawn over one of the previous shapes, and I have to put that back in. And soon, hopefully. Carefully over there. A perfect line. There we go. One more. Carefully, like so. I wonder why. Technically, there's a limb to be had here as well. Specifically, the arm. But it would hide quite a lot of the body at the moment. So, I think I'll go with just having it behind somehow. Maybe. Maybe I could draw like a wave shape to hide it completely from view. No. There is one more thing. We need to have a layer that will be a rectangle. Like so, and I'll color it, I don't know, the same hot pink perhaps as the tail. Or maybe a light blue, like none seen before. Actually not against the light blue, weirdly enough. And I have another idea. There's this one pen that I have, which doesn't technically use opacity very much, so I'm hoping it'll work out. Well, if it does a little bit use opacity, but I'm hoping if I just use it as an opaque enough brush, it'll still work. You know? There we go, and I'm putting in the blue on the pink side of the tail, so that it has nice gradient throughout. You know? There we go, and once more. We have gone out of lines quite a few times so far, but it is something that can be fixed directly afterwards, like now. I'll pick up my normal brush, which is the pencil one, and I will pick the eraser color, and carefully I can now erase the light blue from where it is not wanted. And same over here. Just like so. And now it has its ups and downs, I suppose. I'll try to add a few more bits of blue around so that it looks more like it's supposed to be there. The choice to make them lines is quite humorous to me. It's so random after like all those other well done circles. And one more small one. Great. I will also use some of our acquired skill to make them shaded. We're going to shade them specifically with color and not with actual difference in what's it called? Values, I suppose. It's a shame that they're so out of bounds with it, but still. Perhaps I'll like pink for the highlight. It's certainly an experience what I'm reading this as. It doesn't follow what I draw really well, as you can probably gather. But it can still look nice. Probably. I say probably because it has once again decided to overdraw itself, which I didn't do another thing until this started happening. You know? But I do want to add some of the... So the thing with some of the bubbles, right, is that I want more bubbles for cohesion that are just in its original color. So that's what I'm going to try to perform in this the moment it responds. Oh, I see. My computer is having a bit of trouble. Not necessarily we can't, overcome. But still. I'll add a little bit of another blue circle over here because I think it'll look cool. And way over here in between these two other ones. Yes, like so. Maybe one more over here, perhaps. I'll add a couple more in this direction for now. I know there's a tail we're missing, but for now this is good for getting. Next, we need the head before I can round it off. And I don't mean the finished head, I just mean a head. Having at least silhouette of a face is good. We will have to finish it quite soon. Not right now, but in perhaps a few minutes. And once we finish, well, not really. And then I'll have to finish it off screen, but I'll make a post about it later. Control X, Control V, Control D, so that you can see the full drawing when it is completed. It won't be soon, but it will certainly be within the Artfight time. And within the week, of course. Still. It's rather a big piece, so I'm not sure it can be finished today, you know? Yes, and then I'm trying to draw all around the accessory. For that drawing I did, that layer also contained the other pearls. Oh, that's why they're gone. I didn't even notice. It's a shame. Maybe I'll try again. One last thing before we go. Bigger, smaller, and tiny. Maybe. Tiny, 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 tiny. And once more tiny, 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 tiny. It's creative, let's say that. Not too bad. If I can do this carefully enough, actually doing it as one stroke kind of works. No, it doesn't. Control Z, hopefully it only erases that. Yes, it did. Wonderful. They do have to be separate, but they have to be like touching, which can be a bit difficult when it has so much drag. Ideally, I'd also adjust the size of them depending on the perspective, but I can't really afford to do that right now. I'll erase some of them because the arm, or I won't. We'll see. I'm waiting for it to undo that eraser, but I don't know if it will. Probably not. Oh well. Let's just carefully draw them in normally. Or not. Hmm. It's a bit hard to figure out what it is that it should look like, but there will be quite a bit of it later. And as a last hurrah of working on the body, which is this layer over here, number 583, I'll draw it in its flash color at the moment, but I need to draw it as a proper highlight. Overlay maybe? Overlay works. With that I can actually shade the body as well, just like normally, which is super neat, and I can shade the shoulder. I can't really shade anything else, because there's not much else to shade yet. But still, this is an interesting point. Where did I put the head, I wonder? I genuinely do not remember. Is this it? No. Is this it? No. This? No. Is this it? No. Perhaps I... wait. Oh, it looks so nice like that. I'll put this as maybe an overlay layer will do it good. On like lower intensity. It's not perfect, but it's good. Maybe I could even do the same thing with this. Overlay. It's such a magical thing. Not quite. Control that. I don't like it overlay. This is the... yes, I want this one to at least attempt anyway. Yes and no. So Control C, Control V. The layer underneath, I want to just be normal, I think. No, normal color. I might unlock it to try putting it in dark blue. At least in pieces. Oh, that does so well for shading. Oh, let me grab the medium color again, just briefly. They have a little bit overshaded. There we go. Nice. The mermaid is still a bit big, but we can already see the mermaidness of it. I'd like to do the hair, but there's a few issues at the moment. I might try doing the overlay for the separation of the neck and chin, maybe. What are you? Nope. Perhaps this one? Ah, yes. Of course. Oh, it'll work. I'll draw one more highlight on the shoulder, I think, because that would be nice. At least some kind of line of separation to make sure the shape language is readable. And then we can draw hair. I have no idea where the face is, so that's going to be a little bit difficult. But nonetheless, the hair is this flaming fiery thing. Wonder if we can round off the silhouette with it as well. I think we can. Oh, that'll be so cool. Just a little bit. Well, not quite. I might just want to use it as one big round thing by that point. Yes. I want to put it underneath the face, but I'm still not quite certain where the face is. Ah, there. Great. And then I will finish just after I'm done making sure the main shape of the hair has all the color it needs, so I can use it as a mask. Very carefully. Once more. And a little bit with 30. 30, perhaps? Well, while it's waiting, I can continue trying to draw. And seeing how that turns out. Ah, yes, of course. Simply ignoring all my previous attempts. And going as such as my most recent one. That's okay too. Now, carefully, there we go. I forgot that that part of the fin is translucent for a bit. I might have to draw over the arm later to make sure more of the hair covers it. There is another thing with there's a second arm that'll be holding something, but that's a secret for later. And thus, it is not currently drawn below, beyond the shoulder. Hopefully it'll let me click on the erase color. Ah, wonderful. Actually did. With that, there was this and then a little bit of that. Maybe. Oh well. And once more over here. I don't remember what I was going with this. I think it's supposed to curl out. The fine little spots that come from the hair on the left side of the drawing at the moment, there's stripes that have randomly spawned in, are, well, funny. This shape of the hair is not necessarily ideal, but it's good for what we have. Alright, for today's extremely short stream, that is us, please tune in next time. I will always be streaming at the same time. The days of the week are a bit of a confusing mess at the moment for it, but I hope even that much was still enjoyable and helped you a little. Have fun and look forward to the finished product sometime.